So those are our assumptions, and I hope you'll think through each one. And as you go through your week, think about how you do or do not embody those assumptions in the way you work with people. So what is motivational interviewing, and how does it relate to the stages of change? Motivational interviewing is a collaborative, goal-oriented style of communication with particular attention to the language of change. It is designed to strengthen personal motivation for and commitment to a specific goal by eliciting and exploring the person's own reasons for change within the atmosphere of acceptance and compassion. The motivational interviewing approach. Motivational interviewing is grounded in a respectful stance with a focus on building rapport in the initial stages of the counseling relationship. A central concept of MI is the identification, examination, and resolution of ambivalence about changing behavior. So remember, we said ambivalence was central to that contemplation stage. So we want to try to get people to the contemplation stage and let them examine and resolve their ambivalence about their behavior. Ambivalence, or feeling two ways about behavior change, is seen as a natural part of the change process. The successful MI practitioner is attuned to client ambivalence and readiness for change. They thoughtfully utilize techniques and strategies that are responsive to the client. So notice we haven't told you what those are yet, but you're starting to get the idea of what's behind all of our strategies that we use. So recent descriptions of motivational interviewing include three essential elements. One, MI is a particular kind of conversation about change, so we could call it counseling, therapy, consultation, method of communication. Two, MI is collaborative. It's person-centered. It honors the autonomy of the person. And they can decide. Their life is in their own hands. They can decide what to do about their own behavior. MI is evocative in that as counselors, we're seeking to call forth the person or evoke the person's own motivation and commitment to change, because they're the one that is going to have to put in the hard work to doing the behavior change. So within MI, there are four foundational processes, or really kind of stages of the treatment. And all of these stages could, if all you have is one 20-minute interview to convince a person or to work with a person to decide, that's probably a better MI way to put it. If all you have is 20 minutes with a person to get them to decide whether or not they want to take a vaccine for coronavirus, you're going to do all these four things in 20 minutes. You're going to engage them. That means convince them that you're a trustworthy person who's there for their benefit, who's there to help them decide what they want to do, and you want to convince them that you will honor their decision, whatever it happens to be. Then once they're engaged with you, you want to focus. Develop and maintain the conversation about change in a specific direction. So, what's it going to be like to decide whether you're going to get this vaccine? And then evoke. Elicit the client's own motivations for change. So evoking means we're going to focus, although we're going to give space for them to say their arguments against change, or in this case against taking the vaccine, but we're mainly going to highlight their reasons for taking the vaccine. So I hear that you have a 92-year-old grandmother and you want to make sure that you don't get the virus to spread it to your grandmother. want to highlight their own personal reasons for change. And then planning. I brought with me the shot. All you have to do is sign the consent. Boom. So that's how those 4 processes might work in a one session. Or these 4 processes could occur over months of work with someone, depending on what behavior they're trying to change. So we have, when we're talking about motivational interviewing, we're talking about first diagnosing the stage of change, and then we're talking about these stages of therapy, and then we're talking about specific techniques that we're using to engage, to focus, to evoke, and to plan in the therapy.
Denial and resistance in people, if you think about that I went through, is not a property of the pathology of the individual, okay, but says something about the relationship. My 15-year-old lies to me consistently, but not to his best friend. Do you see the point? Yeah, okay, so, but you know what I'm saying. You've got to be very careful. And what Miller and I shared then and now is that if you shift your style, this is the basic observation, the motivation to change improves in front of your eyes. And that shift in style is not just a technical matter, it's your attitude towards this person. And so associated with that style shift is a whole lot of things that you saw in Conversation B, which we'll have a look at in a moment, again. But I think which can be captured by this. Try not to judge, try not to blame, try not to label the person. Try and be respectful, reflective, as your colleagues have said. And the motivation to change can come from within them. They have the energy and the motivation and the good sense to change inside them, and much of the capacity and skills to make change happen if you give them the space to do that. And that's a very different approach to what I saw in that addiction treatment unit, and Miller had noticed in addiction treatment settings in the United States, where his stories were the equivalent of mine. I mean, there were some stories that he told me, and still tells me, that truly make me shocked.
There are more videos with Stephen Rolnick on YouTube if you want to search for them. I recommend them. And here's Miller. Okay, I'll move on. Okay. So how was this class for you? I hope that between the reading and what we talked about today, you're starting to take a look at ways that clinicians and public health workers, case managers, can think about the clients they're trying to serve. That we can hold an optimistic, respectful stance toward them that honors their choices, or we can use the traditional medical approach, which is try to ram change down people's throats, and that doesn't really ever work. So next week, we're going to talk more about MI Spirit before we go on and talk about the techniques that we use in motivational interviewing.